Everybody. Just as people pop in, I'm going to do a little housekeeping here. Today, KM in the AM, and we've invited Karen Mosier from University of Saskatchewan to teach us all about soft skills. So, first of all, before we dive in, I'd like to acknowledge that we're gathered on Treaty 6 territory, the homeland of the Métis. And let's take a moment just to honor the First Nations and Métis ancestors of this land and reaffirm our connections with each other. Please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat, and we'd love to know where you're joining from, what you do, who you do it with, and why you do it. So the chat is open, and feel free to use it at will. We're going to save questions till the end, but if you do have a question and you put it in the chat, we can monitor that and make sure that we address your questions during the question and answer period. So for those of you who are new to KM in the AM, Saskatchewan, we're a community of practice focused on sharing practical knowledge and resources that make work in research and communications better. We help you discover what knowledge mobilization is all about and how to use it and how to use it effectively. Through these sessions, which we are committed to keeping free of charge, we bring in experts and thought leaders to inspire, educate, and build our skills, all with the goal of strengthening our professional network across Saskatchewan, Canada, and the world. We have over 200 members now, so if you're not a member, please join. All you need to do is sign up to our email list, and the link is in the emails that you would have received for this session. Today's session is being recorded, so if you prefer not to be seen, please keep your video off and consider changing your display name to something generic. We're also excited to welcome Karen, a research administration expert with over 17 years of experience at the University of Saskatchewan. Karen specializes in practical, real-world soft skills that help us navigate team dynamics, strengthen communication, and create supportive work environments. She's the author of Soft Skills and Professional Tips for the Office, and is also expanding her work into the fiction arena. She's involved in training and development through roles with the Canadian Association of Research Administrators and Mohawk College. We're thrilled, Karen, that you can join us here today to share insights that can make all of our daily work smoother and more fulfilling. Please join me in welcoming Karen, and I'm now going to turn it over to you, Karen.
Okay, well, thank you, Bonnie, for that lovely introduction. I'm very excited to be here today to talk about soft skills. So here's a quick outline of what I'll be speaking about today. First, I will briefly define what soft skills are. Then I'll talk about how to be successful in your job. And then lastly, I'll discuss how to develop more meaningful relationships with your colleagues. Building strong professional relationships is essential in any workplace. By performing your job well, you can foster positive relationships with colleagues, you can build trust and respect, and you can contribute to a collaborative and supportive work environment. Consistently delivering quality work also enhances team morale and encourages mutual appreciation. Now, thanks to everyone who submitted questions in advance for my presentation today. I've incorporated them throughout my talk, and I will do my best to answer them adequately. So the material that I will be discussing today is from my book, my first book that Bonnie mentioned, Soft Skills and Professional Tips for the Office. This was published back in March of 2020. Just a note to self, publishing a book during a worldwide pandemic is not the best time for a book launch. And I also want to acknowledge that a lot of information in the book is just common sense. I've had people that have read my book and said, oh, okay, I can relate to that. And they felt good. They were already doing some of the things that I had talked about in my book. So I just want to acknowledge I'm not an expert. I'm just here to share some things that I've learned over my career. I'm just here to share a couple of stories with you. So just to tell you a little bit about my book, it's a very short book. It's just over 60 pages. People have told me it's very easy to read. It's in bullet point format. I cover 18 topics. Of course, I couldn't cover all of them today, so the ones I'll be covering today are in bold font. Just for interest, it took me 12 months to write the book and then 7 months to self-publish it. So what are soft skills? Well, there are many definitions of soft skills. They include desirable qualities such as common sense, the ability to deal with people, strong communication skills, effective interpersonal skills, good listening skills, a pleasant manner, a positive attitude, integrity, social skills. So for purposes of this talk, I will define soft skills as good manners and personality traits that help us get along with others and build positive relationships. Okay, so here is our first question today. I would like to hear about the job application process after graduation. I want to know tips for increasing possibilities to get hired in a job. So thanks for the great question. How to be successful in your job. I would pause a couple of minutes and talk about how to get a job in the first place. So here are some tips to increase your chances of getting hired after graduation. Well, first of all, you need to tailor your resume and your cover letter. You need to customize your resume and cover letter for each job application. You can't just take one resume and one cover letter and fire it in for job after job. That's not going to get you hired. You need to highlight relevant skills and experiences that match the job description. And I wanted to add something here. I just recently gave a talk on soft skills to Supply Chain Canada. So I attended a couple of their conferences, and the last session was on recruiting. And the presenter told us that AI is now used to look at the cover letters. And of course, the resumes aren't even looked at until the interview stage. So he informed us that you have to have the right keywords from the job description in your cover letter. Otherwise, AI won't refer your application to the hiring manager. So you could be the best person in the world for the job, but if the AI doesn't pick up the right keywords in your cover letter, you're not even going to be asked for an interview. So I thought that was very insightful. Secondly, you need to network. You need to connect with professionals in your field, like through LinkedIn career fairs or networking events. Building relationships can lead to job opportunities and valuable advice. So, for example, if you're looking for a job in research administration, you could join the Canadian Association of Research Administrators. They have sessions available to book time with CARA members from across Canada to help you. Thirdly, you need to gain experience. Now, you can do this through internships, part-time jobs, or volunteer work, and this can provide practical experience and make your resume stand out. And also, it's a good way to get references as well, right? Because sometimes if you move to somewhere new or you're just new in the work field, it's really hard to get those first references. You need to develop soft skills. Employers value communication, teamwork, and problem-solving skills. So you need to demonstrate these abilities in your resume and during the interviews. I also recommend that you take any training or workshop on soft skills and read any books on the subject as well. Fifthly, I would strongly encourage you to prepare for the interviews. Research the company and practice common interviewer questions. There's a lot out there online if you just Google them. Be ready to discuss your experiences and how they relate to the job. And I would even suggest, because I did this way, way back when I first started, I would suggest doing a mock interview with a colleague or a friend. It's important to use job resources, utilize university career services, job boards, and recruitment agencies to find job openings and to get application assistance. Sometimes you can get people to help you with your resume or with your cover letter. And then follow up. That's always a good idea as well. After an interview, send a thank you email to express your appreciation and reiterate your interest in the position. This isn't always possible if you're applying online and it's it's done through a particular portal. But if you do have the chance to do this, I would recommend it. Okay, so let's get right into it, how to be successful in your job. But first of all, I have another question. So from Caitlin, I would like to learn tips for developing a work plan and communication strategies for the workplace. So thanks for the question, Caitlin. You're in luck. So the first part of my presentation will focus on creating an effective work plan. And then following that, I'm going to discuss workplace communication um, and provide several strategies for improving communication in an office setting. So I hope you find the tips and examples I share today useful. Okay, so developing a work plan. So strong performance can enhance relationship building in the workplace by fostering trust and respect among colleagues. When your coworkers see that you do your job well and you are dependable, it strengthens your personal relationships with them. They will keep coming back to you for help, knowing they can count on you to deliver quality work consistently. Okay, so um, developing a work plan applies to you whether you're just starting your first job or maybe you had a career change. Maybe you're starting a different job now, or maybe you've been in the same job for like 10 years. I think it's always a good thing to have a work plan. And if you haven't had developed a work plan up until this point, I would strongly encourage you to develop one. So, what I've done, I've had several jobs over the years because I've worked a lot on soft money, and when the money runs out, then your position is eliminated. So, I've done this quite a few times. So, when I start a new position, I try to talk to my boss or any other supervisors I might be assigned to, and I like to, figure out what are my primary duties and what is expected of me. It's also important to find out what meetings you'll need to organize or attend, or if you need to prepare the agenda or take minutes or book room or order food. And the reason I throw this in here because this can eat up a lot of your time. Then you need to determine if there's any events that you're responsible to organize because event planning can take volumes of just a huge amount of your time. So if you are expected to plan an event, then you need to check if you have an existing budget for it, or do you have to do up estimated costs, get it approved. And so once you have all this information, you have a good idea of what you're responsible for, then what I do is I set up this 12-month timeline and I just plug in all the things I'm going to have to do over the next year. Now you can set this up January to December, or if you're working in an academic setting like I do, I usually set mine up from September to August because that's when the students come back. So it's important to accommodate any unanticipated activities or events that may arise, to plug those into your work plan as well. I know my research committee is always coming up with new and exciting ideas, so I have to be flexible to squeeze those in. And just a little tip for you. Over the years, I've always tried to instigate like extra events or extra activities that are outside my normal job description. And looks really good when you're applying for an annual performance review. If of course, your organization has such a thing, and then you can put those activities on there when you're asking for a raise. And this has served me well over the years. Okay, so just to make it a little bit more concrete, here's an example of one of my work plans. This was a couple of years after I started in surgery. I've been in the Department of Surgery now for 9 years. So you can see there's some of the things I'm responsible for, like reviewing grants, sending out funding announcements, sending out the highlights in surgery, coordinating the resident workshops, facilitating networking lunches, coordinating the faculty research day and the resident research day, collecting abstracts, collecting metrics, overseeing the monthly research committees, overseeing faculty funding, overseeing resident research awards and travel awards, updating the budget, and helping faculty to update their profiles on the surgery website. So that's just a few things. And so when you set a list like this, or you can also do it by monthly, or maybe you might want to do it even more detailed. You could set it up daily. This is what I need to do weekly, monthly, yearly. So I just like a big list like this because then if I have a downtime, I'll check the list and I'll look at, okay, what have I got coming up in case I'm crunched for time later, I want to work ahead while I have some downtime. Okay, time for another question from one of our audience members. I haven't read the book yet, but can you tell me anything about work-life balance with working and little kids and long-term career planning? So thank you, Polina, for the question. I have an entire chapter on work-life balance in my book, but due to time constraints, I couldn't cover it in today's presentation. However, I would love to share a few pointers from my experience. So implementing healthy practices at work and maintaining a balance between your professional life and your personal life is crucial. Some simple strategies include taking regular breaks, having lunch outside the office, using all your vacation time, exercising, eating well, getting enough sleep, pursuing hobbies, and spending time with family and friends. And even though I've never had kids, I understand how hard that must be when you have a couple of little kids running around. Um, and again, although I don't have children, I understand how challenging it can be to find time for both family and oneself. So we can't create more time, but we create exercise into my daily routine by walking to work and then doing yoga over my lunch breaks. Now, it's easy to get caught up in work and feel like a robot doing the same thing day after day, but prioritizing time with family is essential. So I actually schedule it in like any other important meeting. Taking vacation time is also crucial, and I still can't believe it when I hear the percentage of employees that don't take their holidays. So if you want to spend more time with your family, consider splitting your vacation days and taking like a day off here and there. Even a few hours can ensure more regular time with your kids. And to maximize your time off, you could take like 3 days off before a long weekend to create like a 5 day uh, or that'd be 6 day break, or take a Thursday and a Friday off and have an extra long weekend. So I would encourage you to get creative with your time off to maximize your family time. Additionally, it's important to reward yourself for hard work as it often goes unrecognized. And this could be anything from enjoying a chocolate cupcake, my favorite, to getting a foot massage or attending a show. And remember, work-life balance is a continuous effort and doesn't happen magically. It's always a struggle to balance time between work and personal life, but it's worth the effort. So as far as I'm concerned, some people say it's just not achievable. I try to look at it that it's something you just have to keep working at. In terms of long career planning, of course, it would be very difficult with young children, but perhaps you could have grandma babysit the kids on a Saturday. And then if you were taking a course, then that would be the day of the week that you would have time to work on your course. And then I've also seen too that sometimes if you just do your job well, and there's an opening, you can get promoted within your own department or your own unit. And then also, I take a lot of professional development, and sometimes there's workshops and there's courses you can take that are within regular office hours, so that wouldn't actually affect your family time. Okay, so I hope you found that useful. Uh, Another question. So, in research circles, there is always a bit of tension in the office because there is some sense we're always competing with each other for funding, for grants, for students. How can one keep a healthy and productive relationship with colleagues knowing about these potential competitions? Well, thanks for the great question, Jenyon. So navigating competition in research environments can indeed be challenging. So here are a few strategies to maintain healthy and productive relationships with colleagues. So first of all, it's important to focus on collaboration. So emphasize the benefits of working together. Collaborative projects can often lead to more significant results and shared successes. And I know a lot of my surgery faculty are busy in clinics and in surgeries. And so for them, the best thing to do is collaborate with other researchers And then that has a very beneficial effect on their career. And then they have more opportunities to be on more projects and write more papers. Secondly, open communication is important. So keep the lines of communication open and transparent. Discussing goals and challenges can help mitigate misunderstandings and build trust. Thirdly, celebrate each other's successes, acknowledge and celebrate the achievement of your colleagues. This fosters a supportive environment and reduces those feelings of rivalry. Fourthly, you can share your knowledge. Offer to share insights and resources, and helping others can build goodwill and create a more cooperative atmosphere. And lastly, it's important to set boundaries. So while it's important to be supportive, also set clear boundaries to ensure your own work and well-being are not compromised. By focusing on these strategies, you can create a more positive and collaborative work environment, even in competitive settings. Okay, so I talked about developing a work plan. Now I'd like to talk about communication strategies. So effective communication is key to building strong relationships in the office. When you communicate clearly and respectfully, it fosters trust and understanding, leading to a more collaborative and harmonious environment. So how can we promote open communication within our workplace? Well, one of the important things I've noticed over the years is to make sure when you start a new job that there's role clarity, not just clarity about your own role, what you do, but clarity with what are the other people in the office doing. Like you need to know if you need something, you need to know who to ask. So sometimes I'll just go up and I'll say, I need a travel expense claim done. Is this your job or should I ask someone else? And that's quite helpful because it saves time too, but you have to get a good understanding of who does what. Another thing is it's important to send out information to everybody and to make sure that everybody is included. So you have to be inclusive. So that's things like dates the boss is away, maybe an upcoming potluck lunch, maybe the date of the annual Christmas party. And in order to ensure everyone is included, it's important to keep these regularly updated email lists. Because if you don't update these email lists regularly, there's always people retiring or always people that leave, or there's new people starting all the time. So if you don't update the email list, then someone's bound to be left out, and you don't want to leave, especially a new employee, you don't want to leave someone with a bad taste in their mouth. You want them to feel welcome and included. Memos are another important way to communicate information. I believe they should be sent out in advance and again to all parties. That's important stuff like dates when the department head is away, contact information for new hires and what they'll be responsible for, which relates back to my first point, and then the date of the college retreat. Another thing I found useful when I used to work in the vet college was we had this big calendar in the general office and it had everybody's name on it. So, if someone was sick, they'd pencil in sick. So if you looked at the calendar, you could see that so-and-so was sick, they went home. Or if someone was going to take a week of holidays, it was a whole month at a time. You could see, oh, well, this person is going on holidays, the third week in December. So I better talk to them before I leave. And so I just found that a really effective way to communicate. It was so helpful to me in my own job because then I could see, if the associate dean of research is around, if I needed a signature, right? If it was a last minute deadline. Of course, that's kind of old-fashioned. There's so much technology out there. I'm sure Bonnie could give you lots of examples. She's just so up to everything. She's a great resource. But in my department, the Department of Surgery, what we use is an Excel calendar. Excel Outlook calendar, and then we can just go in there and we can punch in time when we're away, and then that way we can all just go in and look and, oh, I can't talk to Jeff, he's away this week. So I like it. It helps for communication, because then I know, oh, Jeff's not here. I'm not going to, go check his office 3 times. I know he's not here, right? Another part of open communication is good listening skills. I like that quote that, we have one mouth to speak, but 2 ears to listen. So um, it's a skill that I really have to work on because I enjoy talking, but I'm working on it. I'm working on it. And good listening skills are especially important. I noticed this during COVID when I was communicating with my boss virtually. Um, there was so much, greater chance of error. So when we would discuss something, what I would do is I would repeat everything back to him. And if there was associated deadline, and then he could respond and say, yes, that's fine. Or he could say, yeah, that's good, but I don't need, this document printed off. So then there was clarity. So that's just something I've practiced. But it's even good for face-to-face communications. Then if you have that clarity, then you don't have someone saying a week later, oh, I thought you were going to do that. So another big part of communication is demonstrating courtesy and respect. So let me just show you what I mean by that. So for example, if you cover a position with someone, you need to discuss in advance with your coworker if you have an appointment or you're taking a day off or if you want to take vacation so they are able to cover for you. And I mean, this is important because then if they want to take vacation or take a day off, then, you can coordinate. Another thing I do if I step out of the office, I let someone know in case someone's looking for me or if someone drops off a package. Um, Another thing is if you're planning social events, don't just pick a day and expect everyone can make it. Like most people have stuff booked in their calendars months in advance. So, if you want to have a good turnout at your event, if you want to be inclusive and have as many people attend as possible, well, send out just a little simple doodle poll and get an idea of everyone's schedule. And to me, that's just being courteous, right? Because I always feel bad, especially around Christmas time. I love all the Christmas things. And then they'll send me some Christmas event last minute, and I'm just so disappointed if I can't make it. And then lastly, know the chain of command and who reports to who. So um, it's important to go to your supervisor and not go over their head and talk to his or her supervisor because you want to prevent negative feelings. You want to have a good relationship with your boss. So know that chain of command. Okay, so now I want to talk about how to develop more meaningful relationships with your colleagues. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is inter-office relationships. So in any workplace, understanding and responding to the needs of your colleagues is crucial for building strong, positive relationships. By being attentive and considerate, you can create a supportive and collaborative environment that benefits everyone. So as I mentioned before, if you're starting a new position, one of the first things, at least one of the first things I struggled with was, how to fit in. How do I figure out sort of the office culture? How do I sort of find my niche? And so how I start is I try to get information on the culture of my workplace. So I'll start by talking to my supervisor, but even more so I'll talk to my coworkers. And, just by having a couple of conversations, you can sort of cipher some of these things. So you could ask them about, what's the culture on working hours. So um, over the years, like I said, I've had different jobs. Um, I've had, my friend was a secretary. So in her case, her doctor would shut down the clinic for the entire month of August. So every August, she had no choice but to take off the whole month of August. I worked in one job where it was there was a culture that, you were expected to be in the office. And so it was really, really hard to get time off. I've had other jobs where my boss would just say, "Oh, take time off whenever you want. We'll just figure it out without you." So, it varies from workplace to workplace, and I'm sure Bonnie could comment on that as well. And then it's important to get acquainted with coworkers' allergies or sensitivities. Now, this is something that most people don't think about. Um, so the University of Saskatchewan, in case you weren't aware, but it's a scent-free university. People may get headaches or sometimes be short on breath with perfume. So this can be especially problematic if you're working in a small space with other people that have this type of sensitivity. Um, is it a peanut-free workplace? I know in my last job, my boss, I didn't know it, but he had a peanut allergy. And so we were really, really busy. I didn't have time to eat lunch. So I just grabbed an O. Henry bar and ran into his office. Well, then he kind of shoo-shooed me out. And then he told me later, he says, "I'm allergic to peanuts." Thankfully, it wasn't like anaphylactic shock or anything. He just said he would sneeze and sneeze and sneeze and couldn't quit. But it's important to be sensitive to these things. And then, um, you wouldn't think about high heels, but that can be problematic as well. And that actually happened here in our department. Our last finance manager, um, he kept getting migraines, and he'd go home and then come back to work the next day, get another migraine, go home. And this kept going on and on until finally we figured out it was the administrative assistant. She loves to wear high heels, and it was giving him these migraines. So we finally had to implement a no high heels policy. And then she'd just wear her high heels when he was away on holidays, or he was out of the office at a conference or something. Another thing you may want to consider is how can you help out around the office? So maybe each time you walk by the photocopier, you might just check if it needs paper and just add some paper. Maybe you're that person, it's mid-morning and there's that little bit of stale coffee left in the pot. Maybe you're the one that'll make a fresh pot of coffee. Or maybe you are the printer champion. I know when I worked in the vet college, we had this humongous color printer, and nobody could fix it when it broke down except our champion Heather. And she knew which color needed to be replaced, and she knew how to do it. So, when you're busy and you're in a hurry and someone can fix the photocopier for you, we appreciated that so much. I just wanted to touch briefly on office gossip. I'll actually talk a little bit more about this later. You might need to have a plan in place. There's different things you can do, like change the subject, or maybe you're in a group, so you hear someone start to gossip. Maybe you can turn and start conversing with this group. Or sometimes, depending on the situation, like if you're having lunch together or whatever, and you can't just get up and walk away, sometimes you just have to come out and say it and say, I don't like saying negative things about other people, and so isn't here to defend themselves. So, I'd like to talk about something more positive, or I'd like to change the subject. I think it's important to seek out people in your office that are discreet, trustworthy, and are the best resource, and to seek them out. So I would have to say that if I've had any success at all in my career, it would be because of these people that were there for me when I needed them. And I've especially appreciated Nadine Kozakavich from the vet college. She had this open door policy, and she said, if you ever have a problem, come see me. And she let you come in, and you would explain your problem, and she'd help you fix it. So it's just people like that are amazing, and they can really make the difference in your career. Lastly, I think it's important to keep your inter-office banter to a minimum, especially if if you have a lot of people sharing like a whole floor or there's just cubicles and stuff. Voices can carry. People are trying to get their work done. So in that case, it's okay to say good morning. How are you? But if your conversation goes over that, 3, 4, 5 minute mark, perhaps you want to consider, taking it somewhere else, not to disturb others. So if you want to develop relationships with people in your office, I think it's important to be strategic. It's important to come up with a plan. Otherwise, it'll be like 3 months later and you still don't know that new girl that has started in shipping. You have to be strategic about it. So normally where I start is I check out what are the official social functions you're expected to attend. So like I said, I used to work in the vet college and they had two big social functions a year. The one was in the fall, it was the big awards barbecue. And then the other one was the big Christmas dinner. They had tables all lined along the hall and everybody came for Christmas dinner. So that's sort of the bare minimum. Now, if you want to increase that level of interaction, you might want to try to attend as many office social events as you can. And the reason this is so important is it gives the impression to your colleagues that you're friendly and you want to get to know them on a more personal level. You can actually take it a step further and plan activities. Uh, you could go out for lunch. Maybe you could go for a walk together over the lunch hour. Or I had one colleague, we actually went to the gym after work. If you are seeking out new relationships in the office, I just wanted to throw in a bit of a caveat. Um, I've noticed in my time that there's sort of rain cloud people versus positive people. Now, rain cloud people can be quite depressing and they're complaining all the time, and they may even fall into gossip or, saying negative things about other people. So, I am more drawn to the positive people in the office that love their job and are always constantly trying to improve the way they do things. Some other tips for getting to know people in your office. When I start a new job, I usually have a little piece of paper here beside my monitor. I'll try to memorize like 3 to 4 names. And so I'll write their names down until I remember them. And then when I have those memorized, then I'll write another 3 to 4 names down. And then over the space of a couple of weeks, and hopefully I can get to know everyone's name, depending, of course, on the size of your office. And a little tip, a very little tip that wouldn't take much effort at all. If you want to get to know people, just say good morning. So when you come in the building, from the time you come in the building till the time you get to your desk, whoever you see, just say good morning. I try to say good morning to everyone. I try to be inclusive, whether it's the dean of the college or whether it's one of our janitors. I say good morning. And lastly, here's a very good tip to share with you. Don't underestimate the importance of small talk. So that things like saying, how was the show? How was your daughter's birthday party? Did you get your renovation finished on the weekend? And people love this. Like when I ask people that have kids, when I ask them about their kids, that you could just see their little eyes light up. I have a couple of sports friends too, and when I ask them how are the riders, well then, they get pretty excited. How are the riders doing? Okay, I'm just keeping an eye on the time here. So here are some relationship building examples, and we'll be sending out a copy of the PowerPoint. So you can see the in black are the types of things you can do if people are physically in the office. And then in the blue and the green are examples that you can do if your colleague is working from home. And of course, in a lot of offices, it's hybrid nowadays. So I've given you a lot of examples how you can reach out to your colleagues and improve your relationships. So you can have a look at those. Okay, time for another question from one of our audience members. How can you deal with colleagues who speak badly of other current or past employees? So thanks, Simona, for the question. Dealing with colleagues who speak badly of others can be challenging, but here are a few strategies. First of all, stay neutral. Avoid engaging in the negative talk. Instead, steer the conversation towards more positive or neutral topics. Secondly, set boundaries. Politely express that you prefer to focus on constructive discussions and avoid gossip. Third, lead by example. Demonstrate respectful and professional behavior in your interactions, which can influence others to follow suit. And lastly, it may be necessary to address the issue. So if the behavior continues and it affects the work environment, then you may consider discussing it with the colleague directly or bringing it to the attention of your supervisor or HR. So maintaining a positive and respectful workplace culture benefits everyone. So I hope that was helpful. Okay, so now I want to talk about reducing your noise print. And I think this is another topic that some people haven't really thought about. So being mindful of one's actions in the workplace is essential for fostering positive relationships. Often our behaviors can inadvertently disturb others, causing irritation or anger. It's important to be aware of our actions to ensure we do not disrupt others, allowing them to work in peace. Relationships can quickly deteriorate if a coworker exhibits annoying habits that disturb others. So it is important to be considerate to others. So I encourage you to monitor your own behavior and reduce any unnecessary noise in the office. And of course, I mean, working from home by yourself, it's not an issue. But if you do work hybrid and you work, on the same floor, this can be problematic. So some ways you can do this is use your inside voice on the telephone. Make your personal calls during lunch hour and not during working hours. Eat your lunch in the lunchroom and chew gum outside of working hours. Now, it's okay, as I mentioned before, to be friendly to your colleagues and take a few minutes to chit chat each day, but avoid standing around talking for long periods of time and rather take advantage of social activities to get to know each other. Now, it's important to set up your wardrobe to respect your coworkers. Avoid wearing bracelets that clank on the keyboard. Consider using soft walking shoes rather than loud clip-clop high heels. Use technology to minimize unwanted noise. So set your cell phone on vibrate. Is it necessary for everyone in the office to hear every time you get a text message? You can buy headphones to listen to music. Another thing I found out over the years is I sometimes book alternate locations when I have meetings or conference calls or if I'm giving a presentation, just to respect my coworkers' productivity. I've had my own office now for 2 years, so that hasn't been a problem. But if you are sharing your office with one or more people, sometimes it's that simple. Just book a room for yourself. Okay, now I want to talk about rebranding failure. So in any professional setting, accountability is a key factor in building and maintaining strong relationships. By acknowledging and owning up to your actions, you demonstrate integrity and respect for your colleagues. This not only fosters trust, but also encourages a collaborative and harmonious work environment. So it's important to learn from your mistakes because we're all human. We all make mistakes. I've made a few mistakes over the years. But what I like about making mistakes is they sort of imprint themselves on my brain. And it helps me hopefully not make the same mistake over and over again. It makes me remember it. So some of the things I do is I try to reflect on my failures and to make safeguards to reduce repeated errors. So for example, for our research days, I make notes of what worked well and what didn't work, and then I file it in next year's file and read it while I'm planning. You can put reminders in your calendar. So if we have research rounds on Friday, I'll put a tag in my calendar to order the food on Wednesday. Then I don't have to get all stressed out. Oh, I hope I don't forget to order the food, because that Outlook calendar is going to remind me. Perhaps you might consider to start the task a little bit earlier next time, or maybe if you reflect on the event, maybe you just need to get a little bit more help for setup. There's a whole bunch of stuff you need to do before an event to get set up, and it's pretty hard to do that all by yourself. So sometimes the best thing is to just ask a couple of your coworkers if they wouldn't mind helping you out. They don't necessarily need to be there the whole day, but it's that the beginning of the event and the end of the event, the cleanup that can be problematic. You need to pay attention to factors that contribute to increased error rates. That's things like stress, pending deadlines, too much to do, doing too many things at once. That's when I make a few errors. Not taking breaks, not getting enough sleep, or not eating right. Now, you can actually make small changes to reduce your error rate. So keep on top of your tasks to get as many things done in advance. And I've swore by that for years, and it works really well. Maybe it's possible to organize your schedule just a little bit lighter around peak deadlines. Try to focus on one task at a time. Take your breaks and your lunch hour. I just find that when I take a break, like even if I go to the bathroom, my files will sort and my brain will remember something, and then I'll go back to my office and I'll quickly do it while I still remember. And then you can also practice stress reduction techniques. Like I mentioned before, I really enjoy doing, it's just a tape, a CD. It's a basic yoga, and it just clears my mind and it just relaxes me. I just feel great after I do my yoga. Now, it's important to demonstrate an openness to feedback and remember that no improvement can be made without critique. And I just love that. And I like it because at USask, a lot of, well, I would say almost all of the teachers have surveys from the students every year to give comments about the course, what they liked, what they didn't like, and then they can always improve on their course. So just remember that no improvement can be made without feedback. So I'm always happy if people give me feedback because I want to do better. And then lastly, demonstrate accountability. So if you make a mistake, own up and apologize and take responsibility for your actions. I have seen people that sometimes tend to throw other people under the bus when something goes wrong, and that can do all kinds of damage to a relationship. So if you make a mistake, just own up. Okay, I think we're getting closer to the end now. So now I want to talk about the power of breaking bread, and this is one of my favorite topics. So, building strong relationships with colleagues extends beyond the confines of the office. Engaging in activities outside of work can foster deeper connections and improve teamwork. So it's nice to get outside the office because it gives you a chance to get to know each other. And I would encourage you to take advantage of such activities. It might be things like potluck luncheon, birthday parties, or the annual Christmas parties. But you can also engage in, engage in activities off campus. And sometimes, for example, for Christmas, they'll take us out to a restaurant. Another way you can get to know each other is going out for coffee with a colleague. I have one such colleague. We took a class together, then we started going out for coffee, and now we've been friends for years. And I really appreciate her friendship. Going out for coffee can also be the start of an informal mentor-mentee relationship. I've done that with a couple of people and help them get into research administration. So it's just really neat to see them thriving and doing so well. Another thing you can do is you might want to consider organizing a social fund. You can use that money to order in pizza or celebrate someone's birthday. Like I said before, it's great if you can get everyone out of the office and go for lunch, so then you can get to know each other better in a non-office setting. I know my last finance manager, I didn't really know him very much, but I was sitting beside him at this one lunch we were having, and it turns out he's a really big sports fan. So up to that point, I really didn't know anything about him. And then just a tip, if you want to become quite popular in the office, you might want to leave a bowl of mini chocolate bars on your desk. And you'd be surprised how many people pop in to grab a piece of chocolate and, just say a couple of words. It's a great way to get to know people. And then if you also want to be popular in the office, you may consider bringing in freshly baked goods or just grab something from the bakery on your way to work. I know when my former coworker Marilyn quit, she was greatly missed because she'd always bring fresh baked goods, and she was such a good baker. They were so delicious. But it's just nice for office morale, and that's one of the things I really miss. Okay, so that's my presentation, and now I just want to give a shameless plug for um, my books. So if you're interested in getting my soft skills and professional tips for the office book, or like Bonnie said, I kind of delved into the fiction world, fantasy fiction specifically. I'm writing the Derek Tale series. The first book is Dagger of Uricat, Attack from the Underworld. The second book is, which I just released in April, The Deadly Intruder, A Kingdom in Terror. Um, it's about a young girl that finds a magic amulet and gets mysteriously sent back in time to a fantastical alternate version of Saskatchewan in the 1500s. One of the neat things about my book is I set the plot around these really cool places to visit in Saskatchewan. So I'm Saskatchewan born and raised, so I'm pretty proud of writing these two books that highlight some of the really neat places that we have here in our own province. So my books are available at all online bookstores. You can order them on Amazon or Indigo or any online bookstore. So thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. Here's a picture of some of my flowers. This was quite a few years back, but I also love gardening. I'm just crazy about flowers. I love flowers. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. I can't see the chat, Bonnie. Are there any questions?
Not in the chat as of yet, but I
Okay.
did post something earlier about do you have any advice for those of us who are introverts in
Oh,
managing all of these social things? I'm an
yes.
introvert and I actually don't enjoy the social side of an office. I've worked from my home office for most of my career and I quite enjoy it here. So do you have advice for those of us who are introverts and maybe don't, fit
Okay.
on the social cue?
Yeah. Thanks for the great question. I'm mostly an introvert myself. And I had no idea that when I wrote this book, I'd have to do all these presentations. But I am an introvert, and I understand that completely. One of the tips that is recommended is if you're going to an event that you go with someone else. And so then, if you're in between talking to people, you can always talk to your colleague, and then you never have that uncomfortable feeling of, oh, nobody's saying anything, right? Or it's easier when you take someone with you.
Mhm.
Um, Having said that, like I said, I'm an introvert, so I sometimes push myself outside my comfort zone and just try to attend, an event here or there, just so I don't get out of practice, so to speak. Um, because it's communication is important, and another thing what I try to think about when I think of the term networking it can be scary. So I sort of relabeled the term networking. I like to call it conversation. And so, I think, well, it's easy to have a conversation with someone. And so when I sort of relabeled it, then I don't find it quite as scary. Um, and so one of the things I do, like, for example, when I go to conferences, I'll tell the people from my own university, I'm not going to sit at your table. It's not that I don't love you guys, but I want to meet different people. So I'll purposely sit at different tables. And of course, you may get a different response every time, but sometimes it's worked out really well. And, depending on the context, I mean, you don't want to interrupt the middle of a conversation. If there's a conversation going, just, let it finish itself out. But once you get a chance to speak, you can always um, ask informal questions like, where do you work? Where are you from? Or if you want to ask lighter questions, you could say, what are your hobbies? Or do you have kids? And like I said, I just find people with kids are normally quite happy to talk about their kids. And I find sometimes people are more comfortable talking about informal things at conferences rather than, the standard, you know, work related comments. So, anyways, I don't know if that helps. That's some of the things I do, but because I'm an introvert, I sometimes have to really push myself outside my comfort zone because I don't want to lose that skill, right? Like I want to keep good communication. I want to with the people in my office, and I want to develop solid relationships. So I have to kind of push myself once in a while. Um,
All right, well, we just come up on 10 a.m. So
okay.
thank you, Karen. Thank you to everyone who joined. This was very informative session, and we will have some resources coming your way after the session. So if you haven't done so, please make sure that you register through the link that I posted earlier in the chat, and then you will be sure to get the resources because that's the mailing list that I will use for the email. So again, thank you very much, and we'll let you guys go back to your day.
Thanks, Bonnie. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure having you, Karen.
Bye, everyone.
And your next book, Karen, can be about introverts.
Ah, good idea.
All right. Well, have a good day, everyone. Bye.
Bye bye.